Hi, it's Rich Tarani. Thanks for being here. We're at TMC Net's Editor's Day, Santa Clara, 2015. On our program is Enzo Signore with 8x8 Incorporated. And Enzo, welcome to the show.
Rich, thanks for having us.
Our pleasure. So many people out there know 8x8. Your company's been a strong player in the communication space going back literally decades and decades, and I figure it's still not a bad idea for you to give us the overview of how you see the company today.
Sure. 8x8 is a phenomenal company. I've joined the company about a year ago, and as you said, a very innovative company. They were one of the early adopters, early innovators in cloud communications, early in this 2001. They've evolved since tremendously. So from a hosted PBX solution, providing full unified communication solution in the cloud, integrated with the contact center and with analytics, and so providing what we call enterprise communication as a service. Very exciting. We have now close to 900 people in a company. As you know, it's a public company, traded on the NASDAQ stock exchange. We have grown a lot in the last few years, also internationally. We made several acquisitions in the UK, so a big presence in the UK, both in terms of telephony and contact center. We just bought a company in Romania, so we can now expand our presence in Europe as well. And we're moving a market, so it's a very exciting time.
That's great. Congratulations. Yeah, I used to visit your company back when you were selling the equipment that enabled other companies to provide the service, and you decided to get into the market to provide the service. And since then, the market is, it wasn't exactly immediate, but right around the time that you guys decided to provide service, it became a good market to be in.
That's right. As you remember, the market started in the SOD SMB, right? So very small, almost consumer type market, right? A few lines, few seats. And that's what drove the majority of the cloud communication for the last 5 to 10 years. What we've seen in the last couple of years is a fundamental shift from SMB to mid-market and now to enterprise companies. So we see companies that have definitely several hundred seats as kind of the typical type customer size. But now we're seeing many companies that have between 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 seats now jumping both feet into cloud communications.
Very exciting. So in terms of other trends you're seeing in the market, so we're seeing larger and larger companies getting into cloud. What other things do we see happening in this space?
The second largest trend that we see is the fact that, as you know, companies go to cloud communication fundamentally to simplify their IT infrastructure, right? To also get a high level of reliability in the network, to be able to integrate a number of functions that are disaggregated on a traditional on-prem legacy systems. And so we see now many companies that are now moving to cloud to have a what we call continuous communication experience. So UC, or Unified Communication, was born out of the legacy architecture, right? So you have maybe PBX from a company like Avaya or Cisco. You might have instant messaging presence from Microsoft or IBM at the same time. You might have conferencing from, say, WebEx or Citrix. So those are good, very good products. The problem is they're not integrated with each other. So if you and I need to have a conversation, we can maybe use one application for a VoIP communication. If you want to do some document sharing, I need to shut down the product and open up a second product. If I want to check the presence of somebody else, I potentially use a third product. It's very disruptive from a user standpoint. It's also very challenging from IT because now we need to log in multiple applications. We might not remember all the passwords, so IT has to reset multiple passwords per user. So it's very inefficient from a user and from an IT standpoint. And so we see now many companies are looking for continuous communication, one single application that transcends all of the devices, start mobile first, because let's face it, that's where we spend the majority of the time, goes to your desktop, and then enables us to have any type of modality from voice, unified communication, document sharing, video, all integrated in one single experience.
Fantastic, and that really is where we need to be, right? We need to make life easier, we need to make the user experience better, and IT needs less of a headache.
Correct, and now we see many companies that are saying, okay, you can simplify my user experience with this type of continuous communication. You can simplify my IT back office load because I can have now one password, one integration. I can have a single sign-on, for instance, so I don't have to remember multiple passwords, even if I'm logging into, say, Google for Work, for instance. So it's much simpler in the IT staff. And now many companies say, well, I've already simplified my UC solution or my continuous communication. What about contact center? Can I do the same thing with contact center so I can have the same level of integration between application and also simplification across the board?
Fantastic. So if someone's watching right now, and let's say they're an enterprise that is looking to make the jump to a hosted communications platform, cloud communications platform, and they're looking at 8x8 and they have some other companies as well that they're looking at, why should they choose your company over the other options that they have?
First of all, there are many options out there, so companies should truly look at all the market space. Based on what we see, our customers are looking for a number of key criteria. First of all, it has to be enterprise grade, the solution, because companies need to truly have something they can rely upon across the entire organization to avoid silos of communication, to avoid to make multiple choices across the enterprise. So the first thing to look at is the level of uptime that my service can provide. Can I stand behind an SLA? Can I stand behind 4 nines or even 5 nines as an SLA because my communication infrastructure runs on this type of service? The second question is, can I deploy across multiple locations? Can I potentially deploy this on a global basis? Even small companies might have an office in the UK, a sales office in Australia, maybe another outfit in India, for instance. So can I provide a solution that can transcend the US, can truly scale with me on a global basis so I don't have to make multiple decisions as my business grows to the next level? The third one is about compliance, right? So if you are in the healthcare business, if you are dealing with credit cards, if you're dealing with the government, you have a different level of certifications that you need to be compliant with. It could be HIPAA compliance, PCI, FISMA, FIPS. And so that's a key requirement that most companies need to look at before they select their vendor. The other one, because the economics are so favorable now for cloud communication in terms of TCO compared to the legacy solution, the next question is how fast can I deploy the solution, right? In the past, specifically for large enterprise, was fairly complex because the technology was not mature enough to allow a rapid deployment. What we've done at 8x8, for instance, in the last couple of years, we perfected a service we called Elite Touch, so we can now enable companies to jump from on-prem to cloud communications in weeks. The one that we have recently announced is a company called NetSuite that made the decision to leave legacy behind with their traditional PBX system, and they adopted 8x8 across multiple locations, and we deployed 2,400 seats in about 4 to 5 weeks.
Oh, congratulations.
And so that enabled company to say, okay, it's not a high-risk solution for me, let me take it on. So those are, I would say, the 4 or 5 things that companies should look at when they choose a cloud provider.
Sure. I mean, that scaling is crucial because, again, you want to be able to work with a company that can scale and globally.
Exactly right. And then we see companies, another company, for instance, we announced recently, a company called Regis, global provider of shared workspace.
Sure.
And they have 2,500 offices on a global basis, and they had a traditional legacy system. They have multiple PBXs, they grew through acquisitions, so they kind of very complex environment. And they decided to go with a one single vendor, again 8x8, to help all of their tenants globally to have the similar experience. And so that's the power of cloud communication. You can now have a common experience pretty much in 106 countries around the globe.
Fantastic. So then I'm going to ask you a slightly different question. We know that Microsoft is in some ways a partner because it's got application development where you have apps that can run on Microsoft websites, right, but also they're in this space. And the question I have is, how are vendors in general going to compete against Microsoft? How does that work? In case that comes up and
sure,
someone is looking to decide between the two.
We see many companies looking at a integration between the best solution that Microsoft has, which tends to be the Office suite,
sure,
right? It's truly a match. Well, Google, of course, has similar capabilities, but truly have a huge amount of footprint and the value proposition, and be able to now enable that Office suite with a real-time communication solution like 8x8. So you have the best of both worlds. So with that integration with that Link, with that integration with Skype for Business, and so, for instance, from Outlook, you can do click-to-call So if you have an email,
Sure.
you and I exchange an email with a document, you can click on my phone number, and then you can be able to now have a voice conversation between the two of us. And from there, we have continuous communication. So we can go to document sharing, we can go to video conferencing, and all the other modalities.
Fantastic. So as we close out the interview, I was just wondering if there's anything in closing that you want to say, or anything we might have missed that the viewers should know about 8x8.
I think we covered a good amount. My message to the market is the cloud communication has matured a lot now. Opportunity of providing both unified communication and contact centers simultaneously is now possible. Not just because you have two solutions, but because you can actually integrate them together. So for instance, if you are a contact center agent on the phone and you might not have access to some information that's important for you, for your customer, in the traditional world, you have to take information, hang up, look for information, and call back. So that impacts customer satisfaction. With the 8x8 solution now, you can actually have in real time the agent looking for an expert across all of the employees in the company, ask for information in real time, and pass it to the customer. So reduces the delay in serving a customer, increasing customer satisfaction, which translates to, of course, more loyalty.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. This was great.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.